So we need to kill the queen with 4 rangers. If you have the artifact bloodstone, it makes this a heck of a lot easier because that will be your source of healing. You'll also need a reliable defense breaker and a reliable stripper. For this team I'm using Landy as my damage dealer. She could be replaced by Seaside Bologna. You want her on as much damage as possible, and she is the one who is our healer. Fire Schuri is amazing for this. He gives us a lot of CR pushing. Iseria has our defense breaks and is also a stripper. If you're lucky enough to have Faithless Lidica, she is perfect for this fight because she has an AoE strip. If you do not have Faithless Lidica, it makes this fight a lot harder. You'll want to replace her with another ranger who can do defense breaks, because you'll need to save your Iseria's S3 to be able to strip the boss when her buffs get stacked on. So we go ahead and launch an attack to start up the fight. I really like having Fire Schuri on the artifact Sword of Judgment. When he gets a double proc, it double pushes your team, and that's amazing. So you can see the boss has already got a defense break and an attack break. We can go ahead and strip that with Iseria's S3, and that'll make killing her a lot easier. And we didn't strip it. Well, that happens. That's okay. The buffs will actually help us spin up our Landy. Now, Faithless Lidica is our second chance to strip, and of course she doesn't strip either. So we're having a little bit of bad luck with the strips, but that's okay. We're going to keep pushing this forward. You can put Faithless Lidica on a little bit of damage and give her another bloodstone and really make this fight a lot more smooth. The double source of healing is really, really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and reset a unit and then just take a shot at one of the spiders. I do like trying to kill the adds first in this. You get all 4 mobs up, especially the bees. It's just so much incoming damage. You won't be able to stay ahead of it with just 1 bloodstone. So you really do want to focus down the spiders first. I recommend against running Song of Stars on anyone. It may seem like a good idea, but you can see we already have a defense break and a unbuffable debuff on the queen. If you get a 3rd debuff on there, she resets, she self-cleanses, she counters, and it's just a bad scene for your group all around. So we'll go ahead and use Iseria's S3 again, try to strip the queen, and this time we strip the queen. That makes the fight a lot easier. Another nice thing about Faithless Lidica is her S3 will reduce the queen's skill cooldown, so you can actually use it to reduce the ultimate timer on the queen. If you don't have Iseria, you are relying solely... if you don't have Faithless Lidica, you're relying solely on Iseria for your strips. And because Iseria's strip is also her defense break, I mean, she does have a defense break on her S1, but it's not reliable. I think it's only 50% chance. I really recommend another ranger that can defense break on your team, or to run a ranger that's got Miss Confile. You can run Cerise. Cerise is fast enough to cycle, and she can carry Miss Confile for defense breaks. She also has a strip on her S3. She's an excellent choice for this fight. Seaside Bologna can be a nice second unit. She does have a defense break and she does lay down a lot of damage, but you've got to be careful in controlling the tempo of the fight. You want to make sure that the bees are killed, or that the spiders are killed before you hit the 50% point in the fight. If you push past the 50% point in the queen's health bar, the eggs hatch, the bees pop out, and the bees counter and cycle and double hit so much that with the spiders throwing debuffs and extra damage, makes the fight difficult to complete. As you can see, the single bloodstone artifact has kept us pretty healthy through this entire fight. And Landy has been doing a really good job with damage. Faithless Lidica's strip takes off the attack buff, that's nice. And you can see the Queen's ultimate is ready to go. I'll use her S3 to push that ultimate back and get extra turns without having to deal with the Queen popping off. This attack should push us into the point where the eggs hatch. Yep, very close at least. Okay, now we're definitely below 50%. The Queen will do a splash attack and hatch both the eggs. As the eggs hatch, they put debuffs on our team, and sadly there is no ranger way to cleanse debuffs, so you've just got to ride through it. Schuri with his CR pushing and Landy with her speed buff is huge for this fight. If you don't have Landy, you can try to run Bomb Model Kana. She will also give the speed buff to the team, and she gives herself an attack buff. A good solid unit to use here. You'll have to put a lot of damage on her to make up for what you're missing from Landy, though. We'll strip that greater attack buff off of the Queen and off the bees. You can see why these strips are so important. The attack buff and the defense buff are bad enough, but if the Queen takes enough turns, they turn into a greater defense buff and a greater attack buff, and it spills those buffs onto the bees and the spiders as well. Very, very difficult to stay on your feet with greater attack buff slamming into you and no healers to back it up. Whenever Iseria gets a chance, I like to reset Faithless Lidica. Her support is too strong in this to have the constant stripping and the ability to reset the Queen's ultimate. It's very, very powerful in this fight. So we've almost killed one bee. We have more than almost killed one bee. We'll continue to CR push ourselves with Fire Schuri. Now, the Queen is getting pretty close to using her ultimate, so I will go ahead and use my S3 to reduce that back down to 0. I'm going to save the S2 because I want to use that to strip any buffs the Queen might put up. So we'll just use our S1 here, again saving that S2 to strip. Having the buff block on the Queen has given us a couple extra turns. Now that I've got a defense break on that bee, it should die relatively quickly. There's a Sword of Judgment proc for a double CR push to my team, so everybody is getting to take a turn. Still no reason to use the S2 because there are no buffs to strip. I want to save that. And blind bees do no damage. I've got the souls for it, so I'm going to go ahead and burn. Remember not to use Archie here. The Queen is immune to HP scaling damage, so units like Green Bologna, artifacts like DDJ, Daydream Joker, and Archie really have almost no impact on the Queen. They are good for damaging the adds, the spiders and the bees, but they will do no significant damage to the Queen. So save those souls to burn Landy and to burn Iseria's S1 if you're in emergency need of debuffs. And we accidentally landed 3 debuffs on the Queen, so the Queen reset, cleansed herself, took an extra hit, and gave herself buffs. But that's okay, we'll go ahead and keep bursting down. The CR push from Landy's S3, as well as a speed buff for the entire team. An extra turn because we soul burned. And Iseria is ready with her S2, which should hopefully strip away those 2 buffs. Well, I got one of them. and no break on the S1 unfortunately. But we got it on a dual attack, so now that the queen's defense broken, that mitigates that defense buff pretty well. We'll go ahead and S3 to turn off the queen's ultimate. And that worked. I think we're in pretty solid control of this fight. I know I've said it before, but Faithless Lidica is a powerhouse of this fight. If you don't have Faithless Lidica, take another defense breaker, use Iseria as your stripper, or take Cerise, who is a defense breaker with Miss Confile artifact and a stripper, and make that second ranger have a second bloodstone, ideally 2 bloodstones, and you can practically do this on auto. You'll have so much healing. I hope this video helps you complete this final Dagger Sicar mission. I'll go ahead and let the rest of the fight play out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. I always do my best to answer them. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you could drop a like and even a subscribe. Have a good one.